Every year, fantasy leagues are won and lost on draft day, not by grabbing the obvious stars, but finding the hidden gems everyone else is sleeping on. After grinding through over 100 articles for Fantasy Pros this offseason, I've pinpointed some of the most undervalued players on the sleeper draft platform right now. Guys who can absolutely tilt your draft and set you up for a monster 2025 season. Let's dive into it and unlock the value that's going to win you a championship this year. Justin Fields. On Sleeper, you can get Fields at pick 130 in single quarterback formats. Whilst if you go over to Fantasy Pros and check out their expert consensus rankings, a collection of over 100 different industry experts, you can see that Justin Fields is ranked at number 92. 2024 started with promise for Justin Fields. He was the Steelers' de facto QB1 when Russell Wilson was dealing with a hamstring injury. Unfortunately for Fields, he wasn't able to keep the job for the entire season. Look, Mike Tomlin, when he gets an idea in his head, he's a pretty difficult man to change the mind of. And he had decided that Russell Wilson was their QB1, and that's what happened. Like, Fields, he probably didn't do enough. He said himself that he could have done more to keep that job. But for fantasy, he was pretty damn good. He scored over 18 points in 3 of his 6 games. He averaged 13.1 in the other 3. He had career bests in completion rate at 65% and interception rate at 0.6%. Where he probably didn't help us enough in fantasy was the touchdown department, passing anyway, because in 6 games he only had 5 passing touchdowns. Now, part of that, though, he didn't have very much to throw to in Pittsburgh. Now you've given him Garrett Wilson. Now he's got Breece Hall as a check down option. Fields, he was one of only 3 quarterbacks who had multi-touchdown rushing games last year. The other 2 were Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen, which seems like pretty good company to keep. During the 6 starts that Fields had, he averaged 6th most rushing yards among quarterbacks. He had 38 yards per game. That upside, it's hard to ignore. And now, we mentioned it already, he's with Garrett Wilson, his Ohio teammate. This should aid familiarity, and he is an excellent pass-catching running back in Breece Hall. For the last 3 seasons, Justin Fields has been one of the quarterbacks who's checked down at one of the highest rates in the league, even when unpressured. Now, that might not sound like massive fantasy points, but it's a good thing because it keeps the ball moving, it keeps the offense on the field. And altogether, I'm just willing to bet on Justin Fields' traits, particularly if I can get him outside of the top 130 picks. Let's start diving deeper. Some real good sleeper options here. Tyler Allgeier going at pick 175, 20 spots later than the consensus rankings have him. Tyler Allgeier, he just deserves to be drafted higher. The gap between Allgeier and Bijan Robinson, it's the 8th biggest gap between an RB1 and an RB2 in the league. 15 different running back 2s are drafted before Allgeier, who finished 10th in explosive run rate, 7th in juke rate last year. Yes, Bijan Robinson is an absolute spectacular player, and it really feels like we might start to see the turn of him becoming a truly elite player and maybe even being the RB1 overall. But if you're making that case, it kind of only furthers Tyler Allgeier's reason to be drafted higher as one of the most valuable handcuffs in fantasy football. If something happens to Bijan Robinson, just work out how many running backs you would rank ahead of him, ahead of Tyler Allgeier, every single week. It's not that many. Tyler Allgeier could have huge standalone value if something like that happened, and he could also have standalone value week to week. We've seen plenty of backfields where 2 running backs can be fantasy relevant at the same time. Allgeier, to that point, has had solid standalone value over the last 2 years with 6 RB3 top 36 weekly finishes in each of those seasons. He's easily one of my favorite stashes and a player I want in best ball, dynasty, redraft. I want him everywhere. Roschon Johnson. Ever since drafts opened up, Roschon Johnson has been one of the biggest rises in ADP, and he continues to steadily climb. Now, part of Johnson's rise in ADP is down to the pre-draft assumption that the Bears were going to spend aggressive draft capital on a running back. Now that we've been on this side of the draft for a while, people are starting to realize, okay, the season's getting pretty damn close, and it's still just DeAndre Swift, Roschon Johnson, and Kyle Monongai. People just can't help but dream of a Ben Johnson-led offense, which benefits Roschon Johnson this year. Now, Johnson, I'm not beating about it. He's failed to score more than 14.5 PPR points in any game last year. But at pick 201, This feels like a really fair price for a running back 2, especially given that the rankings put him 30 to 40 picks higher. There's definitely an element of dart throw with Roschon Johnson. I'm not avoiding it. And he's yet to prove it with production in the NFL. And we don't truly know how Ben Johnson feels about him because, per the Coach Speak Index, Ben Johnson has done at least 17 press conferences this offseason, and no beat reporter has ever asked about Roschon Johnson in that time. But if it's a straight choice between Roschon Johnson and Allgeier, who the Bears got in the 17th pick of the 7th round, give me Roschon all day. DeAndre Swift just has this habit of irritating coaching staff and playing his way out of a job. And I truly believe that Roschon Johnson not only could have the goal line role, similar to what David Montgomery had for Ben Johnson in Detroit, but also could have huge contingent value for the back half of the season if DeAndre Swift plays his way out of this team. We're going to keep with these late round guys, the real steals of the draft, the ones who give you the most value. Josh Palmer, available at pick 199. His expert consensus ranking average is 165. For a lot of people, though, significantly higher than that. The Bills didn't make any significant additions to the offense this offseason, but they did bring in Josh Palmer during free agency, and it could end up being one of the better value moves out there. The Bills, they were a top 3 offense in many metrics last year, including offensive DVOA and points scored per game. Those are the kind of metrics that we want to be drafting players from. We want players who are on good offenses who score a lot of points. They still, though, felt like they needed a reliable pair of hands with Amari Cooper moving on. My guy D-Bro over at Fantasy Pros, he pointed out recently that the Bills, they faced the highest percentage of man coverage last year at 34.9%. None of their wide receivers had an above 0.104 separation or route win rate above 21% against man coverage. But last year, Josh Palmer, against man coverage, ranked 6th in separation and 5th in route win rate per fantasypoints.com. If nothing else, we know this is a guy who can go out and win in big moments against man coverage, and we'll just keep drafting players on good offenses. That shouldn't be something that we shy away from. Here comes our last player in just a second, but if you've got this far into this video already and haven't hit the subscribe button, make sure you do so right now, because oh my god, August is going to be a massive month of fantasy football content over here on the Fantasy Sanctuary. Let's go deep. Woody Marks, available at pick 268. Consensus rankings suggest you take him around pick 234, but we're already seeing that creep higher and higher. For anyone not sure, Woody Marks is on the Houston Texans. Marks wasn't someone I was overly high on in the NFL draft, and neither were the NFL. Like, he was the 12th running back taken in the middle of round 4, but it's definitely time to start paying attention to him now, because he has a really clear path to relevancy with the Texans. Joe Mixon's struggling to get on the field during training camp. Outside of Marks and Mixon, it's Dameon Pierce, who this regime haven't really shown any love for, and then Nick Chubb. Now, Nick Chubb, he's on such a low-level contract, it wouldn't be surprising to see him not make the final roster. D'Amico Ryans spoke glowingly on Marks, saying they put a lot on him and he's handled it great. So if I'm looking for a late flyer, give me Marks all day. We want pass catchers at the running back position. Marks, he averaged over 50 receptions per year in college. Given the way that the Texans' offensive line looks so miserable this year, I'm expecting a lot of quick passes, and a screen game with Woody Marks catching a lot of passes would be really beneficial for CJ Stroud. Those are your 5 underpriced players on the Sleeper platform right now. Make sure you hit subscribe. Let me know which guys you're taking or who your favorite sleeper is. And go and check out the overpriced video that we've already put on the channel. It's right here.